Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host. Our theme this season is what does it mean to expand into a new story? And how do you stop hiding your spiritual gifts and dare to be seen for who you really are by saying yes to your soul and telling your story? So today I am thrilled to welcome Abby Wynne. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for putting up with my mistake with time zones and time changes and stuff like that.
It's the wondrousness of how we can find each other all around the world. I love it. All right, I'm going to read a little about you and then we'll dive in. Abby Wynne is a spiritual teacher, best-selling author, and healer living in Ireland, thus the time zone issues. Anyway, blending shamanism, psychotherapy, and energy healing, Abby works with the multidimensional aspects of our psyche in a unique way, making the process of doing your inner work more accessible. Abby has published many books, including How to Be Well, Heal Your Inner Wounds, and the Inner Compass Trilogy. She also co-wrote a book with Mark Attwood called Weapons of Mass Protection, which was an instant international bestseller. She is founder of Life Mastery Practitioner School, where she is now training the next wave of therapists. So Abby, welcome to the InStory show. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody, which is what does it mean to you to expand into a new story?
Well, I was listening to you read my bio because the bio is a story that we tell about ourselves. And it's the last line there. The founder of the Life Mastery Practitioner School is the story that I am currently growing into. So it's not that I am telling myself a new story right now. It's that I have my old story, my current story, and I have one where I'm going, and I'm kind of at the bridge in between them both, which is a very interesting place to be because, interestingly enough, Deborah, I've just finished literally today editing a book for a friend of mine about critical thinking. And in critical thinking, it's always about questioning ourselves, questioning our beliefs, taking a step back, slowing down, going for the deeper work, going for the slow and possibly uncomfortable route, being able to sit with the not knowing. And all of this is part of healing work. And I just find it fascinating how so many threads are coming together for me in my life, even though I haven't, let's say, unraveled the old story and woven in the new one to the point where I'm wearing it as my main shawl or coat or whatever it is. So the thing is, right, is that for about 20 years, I've been training to be a therapist, discovering ways of working with people, seeing clients, and the books that I've written for the healing processes are basically about similarities that I've seen with many, many clients over many, many years. And I find I'm a double Aries Leo. So I don't tell many people that, which basically means I'm fiery. I have to fix things right now. And look over there, it's something shiny, and I have to go over to that. But I'm very calm in my nature. I'm very deliberate, and I sit down with my mandate, which I set for myself. So talk about a story that you tell yourself. I set myself a mandate, which is really interesting because in this book about critical thinking, the author suggests you write yourself a constitution as to what are you about, who are you, and what's important to you. And from that, you build the structure and framework around which is the story that you tell yourself of who you are. So when I look at the mandate, the original reason why I set up in healing was to teach people how to heal themselves. It was never about being everybody's healer. And so when I look at the different points in time across my career, I see that I have kept to that mandate. And what I'm doing now, instead of continually to see people on a one-to-one basis, I'm teaching people how to be therapists so that they can then see those people on a one-to-one basis so that I am shifting. I'm in a moment of expansion, of molting, and I still have some of the discomfort of the old stuff sticking to me, where somebody might write to me with the best intentions and a beautiful heart and say, I need to see you for a one-to-one session. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore. It's not who I am. I have, and I'm like, no, I only want to see my teachers. I only want to work at and I know, but that's another story. So I have to say, take a step back, sit down, let's talk, let's see what's going on. This person could be the next greatest healer in their own community without even taking a lesson, without even graduating. Because when you see people as points of light in the grid that radiate outwards, everybody affects everybody else. It's the ripple effect. It's the pebble in the pond, the homeopathy. So it's not that like I see myself higher up than anyone who is working directly with clients, but what I see myself is casting my net wider to support healers and many people who are coming to me. I'm doing like a beta version, right? So I have students this year. I'm running the classes this year. I'm launching proper next year. But what I'm finding is the people who've come to me are a mixture of people who've been stuck where they keep going back and they keep wanting more learning and they keep getting certifications, but they can't figure out how to consolidate. They can't step through it. Or people who know that the magic is inside of them, but never knew how to bring it out, never felt safe enough to do it before. So it's to me, it's a very valuable experience, really valuable. And what's been, because I'm testing and asking all the time with the students, how are you finding this? Is the pacing okay? Does it make sense? Because it's online, right? But the healing work we're doing is deep and profound and very, delicate at times. And so I need to make sure that my students are keeping up or we're supporting them enough. And one of the things that one of them said to me was that they've done all these trainings. And in the trainings, what they get is what's called a protocol. First, you do this with your client, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do the next thing. And where I've been doing very loose protocols, the thing that scares them and excites them the most is that I'm giving them the space to step up and be completely who they are with the skills that I'm teaching them. So I'm not looking for carbon copies of anybody. What I want them to be is the best version of themselves. And to teach this to students, and my students are aged, I suppose, from 40 up to 78. I have a 78-year-old in there. You know, it's challenging to teach, but it's challenging to learn. And what I'm loving is the sense of community. And so I've stopped telling myself stories of who I'm supposed to be, and I'm just stepping into the role of facilitator, of supporter. I mean, even writing. What am I? I'm a founder. I'm the teacher. I'm the course creator. Their roles. I think where we're going, Deborah, and I don't know if you agree with me, doesn't quite fit the old style labels and let's say job roles and job descriptions that people would have expected from years before.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. I know I'm talking a lot.
No, no, but I love what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. I think there is the old structures are don't fit anymore. I like to call them too tight, where you have
Mm,
to do it exact. And I'm with you. Like a big part of my work also is saying, people say, well, Devorah, what's the in-story way? I say, finally doing it your way.
yeah.
I think this is the expansion we're feeling is trusting other ways of knowing, trusting your own intuition. And partly that expansion that you're describing is, I think, what's being asked of each person in a different way. How do you have become more expanded in the way you work and what you say and how, and how you show up? So I think we're on to this together. A lot of the women on who are interviewed in this show are feeling this sense that we have to have a more expanded sense of trust, of form, of how things come through us. So I'm with you, my dear. Um, Really, it's so significant. But I would love for you to say a little bit more about one or two like really turning point moments that you felt like allowed you to trust this higher calling aspect of your work, right? Because it's easy to feel like you have to stay in some kind of old story. And in order
Mm.
to shift to the new, it means you've got to leave something behind that used to be how you did things.
That's
And
really interesting that you say that.
so,
One of
yes.
my newest and closest friends, and just even that phrase, that I'm meeting people now that I'm instantly connecting with and feeling very much heart connection to. Whereas I would have known lots of people before and you never really know them. But what she told me that she figured out or learned or came to her is that the body has its own consciousness and that we have our own consciousness. And we have an argument, what we're becoming critical thinkers, we're allowed to agree to disagree, labels and things don't necessarily fit. So she calls the body and its consciousness your inner child. Whereas for me, the inner child is an aspect of the psyche, my identity that got frozen in time and needs more support and healing. So I think as we're discussing stories and moments, needing to understand that not everyone's using similar language and that we have to say, okay, well, what exactly do you mean by inner child? You would just make an assumption, wouldn't you, that inner child was what you thought it was going to be and that was something totally different. But anyway, back to the point that you were asking me. So I thought this is a load of toss. My body's consciousness and my body is me. I am in my, and I said, okay, well, okay, let me just stop for a minute and let's test it out. So I shut that up and I listened and I said, okay, body, do you want to talk to me? And then I realized I talk to my body all the time, but maybe I don't really listen to it. So it started to respond. And now I feel I have a totally different relationship with my body. I respect it more. I exercise more. I move more. I've changed the type of clothes that I wear, more natural fibers, more higher quality, wear the similar things on a regular basis. I've also changed my shoes, barefoot flat shoes, more natural, and I'm allowing the alignment of my body to shift. And what I'm finding is a release of tension that allows again an expansion, because when your physical body's tense because it's either processing the toxins that you have put into it or processing the toxins that it's been subjected to by where you live, or dealing with, let's say, you're not sitting properly, the chair is wrong, your shoes have too high heels and you're throwing your back out, it takes you away from those inner magical aspects, the beauty, the silence. You can't just sit there and just become at peace with you. You've got all this noise, and as well as that, these black scrying devices, these phones, you can't go deep with something. You can't think, and just allow to think for several days. You have to come up with the answer now, and it has to be catchy, and it has to be this, and it has to be that. And I'm going, how am I going to promote my school? Just something as simple as that. And I just thought, I'm just going to keep doing what I do. But I'm going to take a moment to come into alignment with myself and say, what is it I want to show? Who do I want to attract? And you put that frequency into everything you do. And that's when you realize it's not what they tell you, it's what you're feeling, it's the frequency. And so if you're feeling fear, everything is laced with fear. If you're feeling confident and powerful, then that goes into everything you do. And somebody's going to see it. And that's one person, when you're looking online, oh, those guys got 2.5 million views and I only got 632. I got 632. And out of those, maybe two people are going to show up next year in my school because I took those few moments. So the stories that you tell yourself, I'm in a rush, I have to do it now, I have to do the next thing. Or are you going to say to yourself, no, I'm going to be present. I'm going to be slow. I'm going to be real. And I think more than ever before, Deborah, that's important because there's so much on there that's called slop now that's made by AI and it's not real. And so people want to know, well, what's real and what's not real. So if you're not showing up fully as yourself, then they'll think you're not real either. So many of us are not being real to ourselves.
Right. Well, we did the best we could. to survive our lives. Like for a
Yeah.
long chunk of time, that those choices were brilliant. They were genius. They were our best way to survive our families or our religions or our jobs or school. Don't even get me started. And but then we grow out of that, and it's like you said, it's like that inner child. One way of looking at it is this part of us frozen in time that still thinks it's in those dire settings, and it's not. Right. So then
Yeah.
there's all the work you're describing, and that we all do in all different versions to transcend out past that, to say, okay, that's not true anymore. Like I'm not in that danger. So now there is this other opportunity, and it doesn't let go of us. I like to say it's like your soul calling, or God's like asking something more of you. And that is what I feel like when I say yes to your soul, like saying yes to this more expansive call, which I think is
Mm.
what you're feeling and addressing profoundly in your own work. So that all those people that you work with, that I work with, that all my other speakers, they then go out and do the same thing. And that's like you called it, that ripple effect. You have to do this expansion work. Like you said, you have to shift your frequency, your trust. From what point are you emanating, so to speak?
But you're talking about stories that we tell ourselves, right?
That
When
too.
you're going to say yes to your soul, the story that we automatically tell ourselves, and most people do, is how? How are we going to do this? And that's the one thing we have to stop asking. That's the one thing we have to stop needing to know, to shift the story of I have to know all the details now and it has to be now, and the urgency of to saying, every time I talk about, let's talk about me, for example, every time I talk about my school, about teaching, about fusing, shamanism with psychotherapy and how it benefits people. And could you imagine a world? Because there's so much trash out there, there's so much bad therapy. Could you imagine a world where therapy actually works? And the way that I'm doing it, it's working. And it's like, you feel that. I feel that passion coming in when I talk about the higher level concept of it. But then you have to have the space in between. So this is for anybody. When you find yourself lifted, talking about a higher level concept, you have to then let it float a little bit away to
Mm.
create a space or an opening for the how to come to you, because it's a co-creation. It's not you doing this by yourself anymore. It can never be you doing this by yourself. And that's the old way when we're doing the best we can. That's the way we had to do it, was okay, I have this huge mountain I have to climb. And you're so busy climbing the mountain, you miss the lovely person with a car who would have bring you up in the back of their car. But you're so busy walking, they go, oh, there's a person, they don't need any help. They're doing just fine on their own. Whereas if you're sitting there going, well, okay, what's the best way I can do? And then, oh, I'm going up too. Do you want to lift? Yeah, great. Let's go. We go up together. It's like, it's interesting. The more I look at, let's say, my internal creative space, the more to me it feels like an airport hangar, which is really interesting with these airplanes in various stages of repair, or and then there's a space here, and the project is finished, the plane leaves. I like
Mhm.
to clean the space. I like to leave it open, and I'll go over here and I'll work on another project.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then before I know it, an incredible craft with hieroglyphics, that's a golden triangle comes in, and oh, you're not an airplane, you're fascinating. What the heck are you? And it's just there. And then you go inside and you explore, and it's like putting the space in between you and everything else. It's shamanic.
I like that. This idea of putting some space between what comes to you and how it gets shaped
Yes.
or fulfilled. Love that. All right. Do you want to lead us through some experiential thing of some sort, Abby?
Well, I think that image works really well if people listening want to just visualize their own internal, let's say, aircraft hangar, or is it an airport? Is it very busy? Is it cluttered? You know, when I talk about the projects leaving, they need a clear and free runway to actually accelerate the speed to be able to take off and go in the world on their own. I mean, if you start running after these airplanes to hold them and make them fly, then you're going to ignore everything else. So you have to let go of the projects. I'm going to just ask everybody who's listening to maybe close their eyes and take a breath, which is a really good idea. And maybe some of you only have one or two. Maybe some of you feel like you don't have any, but this is an emotional attachment to something you've been involved in or a space that you're creating for something new to come in. There's always work to do energetically. So you can walk around in your mind's eye. Do I need to lift the frequency of this space? What in this space? And it could be something like, like old journals or notebooks, or maybe love letters you wrote when you were a teenager, or stories that you never published and put in the bottom drawer of your desk. Are they dropping the frequency of my creative area because I keep thinking that they're still active and alive? Can I just let them go? Can I just let them disintegrate, fall into dust, drop out of this scene, this heart space of mine, and feel the instant boost as it lifts up and go, oh, maybe I really do have to let go of those after all. When you hold them in your hand the next time, they don't have the same charge. And you say, okay, well, what projects, how can I realign things up so that I can make that space? And what do I need to ask for help with that I keep thinking I have to do by myself? Can I just release my grip on it? Just see what that feels like. Imagining yourself opening your hands and just releasing your grip on these things. Even if it's a book, if it's a novel that you're working on. I mean, I'm working on a novel at the moment. They like to shapeshift and take on a little bit of life of their own. They have chosen you. Maybe they're writing you and it's not you writing them. And if you're gripping on so tightly, you're not allowing them to morph and change and shift and change color. Give them that space. Take the break. Now see yourself walking down a riverbank away from all of these things, admiring the flowers. I'm seeing a few mushrooms there, ripples of sunshine on the top of the water. Maybe you want to splash your face with the water just to freshen up your energy. I'm seeing like a dog shaking, coming out of the water, just shaking it all off. You can jump in the water. Refresh yourself. It's crystalline water, taking away all your doubts and fears. And maybe if you wanted to allow it to also take away your how questions. Seeing maybe at the pit of your stomach, the need to know the answers now in you. Can you just like pull it out of yourself and leave it there to, dissolve or to shift or to change into something else? Turns into butterflies, black stones turning into white stones as you step out of the water and allow yourself to blossom into a form that's beautiful. You recognize the truth of who you are because, as I said, your physical body has its own consciousness, but it's just a part of you. And maybe you don't look like that when it's just your soul who's out wandering and playing in the landscape. Becoming more expansive, becoming softer and bigger. And then you can walk back into your creative space and change it, lighten it up, jazz it up, play with it, bring in fun, bring in color. Because where we're going right now, you have to have fun. You have to have color. You have to create out of joy. Everything in the old world has been created, as I said, with the fabric of fear. That fear is woven into the very foundation of everything. And we're not going to create that way anymore. So for you to create from joy, I'm going to ask you, those of you listening, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What is it that you are passionate about? And write it down right now, or think about it, or visualize it. See yourself doing it. And no, it might not be this year. It might not be even be next year. And, the people who will be helping you do this will show up. But if you want to map that in, carve a space out in like the airport space that I was talking about, the project space, mark a spot in there for this, a spot for the unknowing. Maybe you want to, put flower petals around it or little sprinkles, but leave the space mostly clear and allow things to come in and settle. And then you can make the time to examine what they are over time and then come back. How was that for you?
What was super cool about that is the whole thing was very fun. And but the when I came out of the river, I had already changed into a much more expanded state. And you said, and now being in a different state, I was like, yeah. And I recently did a process for my group, and then I did a free call for my whole community on I did a guided meditation on expanding into a new story. When I did it on myself, I had this experience that I had to first experience my old story in order to expand into a new one. And I experienced my old story as living inside of a beautiful, comfortable space that was very cozy and lovely. And I was very happy about it and proud of it, but it was my old story. And when I said, what's expanding a new story? All of that disappeared. Now it's just a pure expanded
Mm,
energetic being with no form, actually, like the shift was I contain my story rather than my story contains me.
yes.
And that's exactly what I felt. The same thing, like, oh, I'm now I'm not contained by this. I'm expanded, so I have all this expansion, and then there's room for all of these creations to come to bloom, so to
See,
speak.
here's the thing, Deborah, that is coming up for me time and time and time again. And if you're looking at the astrology of these times and you're looking at the evolution as opposed to revolution, but as we're growing and moving into becoming the luminous beings that we are not writing our stories ourselves anymore. We invite God in to write with us. We invite other people in to write with us. And if somebody else was to show up and say, I'm going to help you with your next project, and you've already written your story and it's complete and there's no space for them, you could be missing out on something that would be the most amazing thing for this world right now. So we have to let go of our desire to be the one that does this. And when you even looking at healing, right? I created this modality and it's got a trademark and you're not allowed to copy it and you have to do it exactly the way that I've said. This is why I didn't want to do online training for years because all of the models and imprints of people who were doing it like that. And I say, I'm not going to do it like that. So it was only until I was ready, I just felt that, okay, I could do it now.
Mhm.
Because people also need the space to become the mature adults that they are, to see the world through those eyes and to act that way. Oh, it's really funny when you're doing your inner work and you're doing healing work, everybody regresses into the inner child. Oh, even my students have done it. And I say to them, this is wonderful because now you're going to see it in your clients. You'll know what it is and you'll be able to manage that.
Oh, it's very exciting. And what I love about telesummits is that we find each other. I
Mm.
just love this because I say to people, if it moves you, it will move your tribe. And what happens is we come into connection with each other, and then you become able to share these more expanded knowings and consciousness. So, all right, tell us what your free gift is so people can get even more expanded.
Well, my free gift is a full 1 hour healing session on audio that you can download. And it's not like a podcast or, pretty music that you play on in the background while you're doing the dishes. No, you have to actually book a session with yourself. So this is what I would ask everybody to do. Literally look in your calendar and make an hour and write it down. I'm pointing to my phone because I do everything on my phone. This is my healing session. You've downloaded it already. And then what you do is you go and you sit down and you give it your full attention for the time that it's on. You listen to what I'm saying. You allow the energies to come in. Because you've met me here and now, you kind of know me a bit. But the beauty of a downloadable is that you can then do it again.
Mhm.
So if you're not sure of what might be coming up, if you're a type of person that's like, oh, I don't think I want to step in with both feet, don't. You don't have to. Skim through it. for the first time you do it, but do give it your full attention because it comes with healing energies. And then afterwards, you see, I work with your brain as well as your energy, your emotional energy, as well as your body. So I'm hitting you at all these different, multi-dimensional aspects. And you might not feel anything right away, but then over time, you might notice, oh, I have the energy now to say no to something. I have the energy now to say yes to something. And then you could play the thing again and again and again.
Good.
And that I have many of these all designed the same way. But the free gift I'm offering here is, in alignment with what you're doing with the summit, which is take your power back and become who you are.
Ooh, so good.
And we did that when we stepped out of the river and just opened up. But you see, here's the piece. How do you keep that here in the body when you have to go to the supermarket, when you have to deal with an authority figure, when you have to get paid and you have to pay your bills? So the key is to become as close to that as you possibly can, being authentic. And I have heard, I don't know exactly who said this, but I love this, that authenticity is the highest frequency. It's not gratitude, it's not love, it's none of those things. It's being real. And again, I think I've said this already, in the world where you've got AI, all that crap going on, you can start to tell who's real and who's not. I mean, we have to become good at doing this. We really do. And so this will help you get in touch with your true self, be that more often of the time, and start saying yes to things.
I love it. It's
How? Without
completely
the how.
right. I know I love this whole message that you're bringing, and I really feel that it is really what's opening up, being asked of us, and that it really is possible, and we help each other believe in this bigger possibility. So, all right, leave us with one last thought before we wrap up.
Well, really, if you don't know your magic, and by allowing yourself to be who you are, you realize how powerful you are and what you can manifest. Just take a moment and think, well, when there's two of you, or three of you, or eight of you in a group that are all thinking along the same way, what can you manifest together? It's huge. So I think that's the future. I think we have to work together in groups to make bigger things happen.
Yeah.
So there's a takeaway. So get in
Okay.
touch with somebody that you love and meet them for a coffee and see what they
Right.
think.
No, right, exactly. And look, in this online domain, the show has a Facebook group, just the InStory world. So in this little online enclave we have, you can put something in there and we'll support you. And you can, like Abby's saying, find someone you connect with and take that
Yeah.
connection another step.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
really
love that.
interesting, isn't it? How even when it's online, even when it's on Facebook, even in a Facebook group, you got a feeling about somebody.
Yes.
Reach
Yeah.
out to them right
Yeah.
away. Reach out to them now. Say, oh, kind of like the look of this person. And then just say, let's have a chat. Let's meet over.
Exactly.
Facebook Messenger has a video. We could do
Right, exactly. So
hear somebody's voice. There you go.
exactly. So thank you, everybody. Get her free gift. It's a great kind of free gift. Get an hour-long healing session. I love what you said about making an appointment with yourself and see where it leads you. So Abby, thank you. What I say in farewell always is remember everybody to go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, folks.
Bye. Thanks for having me.